y'all, happy Wednesday. We're gonna jump right into chapter 19 today of our book. We're reading You Are a Badass. Like I said, you can catch up on the guides to see the previous chapters, but this chapter today, Jen is talking about the drama of overwhelm. It's like the overwhelming feeling that you get when you have like a big task. So it can be simple things as cleaning our house, like when you let your house go for too long and you get overwhelmed trying to figure out how you're going to be able to clean it all with the time that you have and so on. So she gives a lot of different perspectives on time. So I want to share with you guys a couple tips that I loved from that chapter in the book. So she starts by talking about how time is an illusion, right? So she gives a couple examples on how to understand what she's talking about. So when you set a deadline for yourself, like you can get the same task, the same activity that you got to do. If you set a deadline that you have 6-7 months to do it, it's going to take you 6 or 7 months to do it. But if you're in like a life or death situation, you got to finish that up in 2 to 3 weeks, you're going to finish in 3 weeks. So it's also like, for example, she gave an example of organizing your desk, like organizing your desk at your office. So some people will just procrastinate that and they'll say, oh, I just don't have the time to organize all these documents and get everything situated. But every single morning, it takes you longer than you should to find your phone, to find your wallet, to find the things that you need before you leave the house, just because you refuse to separate a little bit of time to organize your office table, for example. So that's what she means when about time is an illusion. It's about learning to have better time management and be more effective. The second tip that she had that I thought was super valuable is something that I kind of already do that helps me get certain things that makes me feel overwhelmed, get them done faster. She says that your brain loves chunks. So that can be like learning to do your activities in chunks or even your time. So for example, if you know there are certain things gonna take you like 3 days to do it, instead of telling yourself, oh, I'm gonna do this 3 days straight, no breaks, because you know you're not gonna be able to do it and you're gonna get distracted and you're gonna feel disappointed because you got distracted. She teaches you to chunk up your time. So for example, if you need the 3 days to set a goal, for example, I'm gonna sit down for 1 hour and I'm gonna get as much as I can do in 1 hour, and then I'm gonna take a break. But no matter what happens within that hour, I'm gonna be the most efficient that I can. And then when it comes to your work, she gives an example for about like her book. So she had the book. Her way to divide that was to put every single chapter in a different piece of paper. That way she knew what the chapter was going to be about. It makes you feel a little less overwhelmed. And you can do that with a lot of like bigger activities, like even like she mentioned about cleaning the house. Like a lot of times, for some reason, you go through a crazier month and you're super busy, then your house gets super disorganized, and if you get that overwhelming feeling, right, of where to even start. I get that all the time. Like I remember when I first traveled to Brazil to spend this 20 days there. When I came back, I was a little overwhelmed because of documents and stuff like that. I was walking around the house and was like, I didn't even know where to start with. So she talks about that feeling of like feeling overwhelmed, and that blocks you from even getting started. So with the house, for example, this is a different example so you guys can have the understanding of what it means to chunk up your time. Start with just set a goal of one room, get that room done instead of feeling so overwhelmed about everything that you have to do, and then go to the next one. And that could be for like a big task in your job, in your business, and so on. And there's a few last tips at the end. She talks about the way that we speak about our job or about the things that we got to do. She said like now almost every time that you ask somebody how you're doing, they tend to answer, I'm doing so great, but I'm so freaking busy. And it's so important to change your vocab. Of course, if you've been reading the book with us, you know it's so important how you speak of yourself, of the things that you have to do. And on this case, she's talking about how it makes us feel so much more stressed out and weighted down by the things that we got to do if we only focus on the bad. So she talks about changing your vocab, learning to appreciate the parts of your job or the parts of your business that you do enjoy doing it, and having enough time management to live a good life, meaning manage your time in a correct way so that you can still have fun in between the things that you don't like doing it. And the last step was to get an outside view, and that goes both ways. It could be something that you've been stuck, like if there is a task that you've been stuck for a couple weeks, a lot of times you get an outsider to look at it or to talk to you about it, and they just figure out in like a couple minutes, just because you've been looking at it the same way from the same perspective. So it's important to get a different outlook. She does give the tip, which this is one of like my favorite tips in personal development, to only take advice from people that already achieved the goal that you're looking towards. So do not ask from like an outsider perspective when it comes to business, to somebody who's broker than you, or don't ask for advice in a relationship for somebody who always fails in their relationships and so on. And then the last thing that she talks about is delegating, which I think a lot of people that, like, when you own a business, I feel like that was very common for me. I had a hard time hiring because my business was my baby and I wasn't sure if they were gonna take care of it as well as I would. So I had such a hard time delegating because I felt like before I even hired, I just felt like, oh, I can do this so much better than everybody else, no matter who I hired, which was a lie. But at the same time, it didn't give me enough time to work on different things that I couldn't hire people for. And that was like life-changing for me, to be able to hire and delegate. Like, I have like an amazing team right now. I have an amazing employee. And now I see like how that was a big misconception, because once I learned to delegate those things, I have so much more time to produce and to do other things that bring so much more income to my business than the little tasks that I was so worried about being done exactly how I like them to be done. So that was it, guys. That's chapter 19. Hope that was some valuable little information for you guys, some valuable tips. Hope you guys have an incredible Wednesday, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.